Greetings, parish orphans and retrogrades. I come to you today with a different kind of show. Special guest Michael Voris discusses the Enough is Enough conference, which debuts tomorrow morning in Baltimore at 10 a.m. local time. It's going to be good because Church Militant is doing what they do best, squeezing the bishops to come to the light, admonishing the bishops to do the right thing, and to end the homosexualism in the clergy, among all the other issues that arise from so many of them being stumbling blocks to us, the laity. It was a good interview, and I just wanted to point out to all of you retrogrades and parish orphans that if you're anywhere on the central Atlantic coast, try to get to Baltimore tomorrow morning for the 10 o'clock rally. It's going to be good. Enough is enough. You got Milo, Steve Bannon, Patrick Coffin, Michelle Malkin, Voris himself, Witness James Grine, lots of others that are going to be making appearances, and it's worth your time to get out there. Voris will tell you the skinny on that, but the second half of the interview, which is actually more than half and was supposed to be less than half, stemmed from me asking my friend Michael Voris what is going on, largely on the interwaves of Twitter, with Mike from RTF, Restoring the Faith. Many of you, my parish orphans and retrogrades, my audience, are not on Twitter, and therefore you haven't seen the drama between Church Militant and RTF. I didn't know what to do after I asked this. I probably should have just cut it as a second interview, but I'm going to release it all now. And so that there's some context, I was asking Voris in the interest of clearing the air, because Mike from RTF is now doing a series of videos alleging things against Church Militant. And Michael Voris, little do we all think about it, he's kind of the man behind the Church Militant, but he's not out there editorializing much or ever, far less than I am. So this is a platform where he could say what's going on a little bit behind the scenes. By the way, my interest is only to help. If Mike from Restoring the Faith wants to come on after, assuming that he does, after he sees this video, be my guest. I would stipulate right up front, though, that now Restoring the Faith is charging Church Militant more or less formally with extortion, which involves illegality, right? Illegal use of financial force. Extortion is not at play here. Blackmailing involves illegality. It is not blackmailing if you attempt to use legal means to incentivize someone to accomplish a legal end. I say this to Voris. I say, look, as far as I can tell, there is nothing illegal happening from RTF or from CM. You guys are coming to a loggerheads about, some prudent matter, some matter of prudential judgment. And, Mike Voris responded by giving some answer. You'll see that in a second. But RTF is as far as I can tell, wrong to use the term extortion or blackmail. That means an illegal means to achieve either an illegal or a legal end. There is no illegality at all here. Church Militant is, to develop the fact pattern just a little bit, attempting to incentivize RTF for reasons that are partly disclosed in this interview and partly remain undisclosed. They're trying to incentivize them. Look, don't do this thing, this call for funds account, on GoFundMe. So that's entirely legal, and whether or not you, parish orphans and retrogrades, think it's a good idea is up to you. Whether or not the RTF viewers or the CM viewers believe that Mike are acting rationally, that's up to them. I just thought that my friend Michael Voris deserved a chance to defend himself, because like me, unlike a lot of trads, Mike Voris and me and others were barely on Twitter, so he didn't even know. So that's why I asked Voris, since we already had him on the Enough is Enough conference. Mike has from RTF has already done one video. He says he's doing a series of videos on this. I wanted to clear the air, and he is welcome to come on this show after this. The main issue that came up as soon as I got Voris talking about the RTF issue is that he used Mike's from RTF's last name. And Mike from RTF has been on this show before, and he asked not to use his last name, and I said, fine. The reason that I have not blacked it out or bleeped it out or asked Voris if I could cut it out is because it's already, it's already been released. You can't unring the bell. So if it had not been on the internet out there already, then I would not have been the one to ring that bell. But as such, you can't unring the bell. That's business. The business of the internet. That's the business of publication. Once a fact is published, is out there. I would offer this slight bit of editorialization, which I do very little of in the video you're about to watch. It's me just basically listening to Voris, first on the the protest tomorrow, and then on the RTF matter. But here's my one bit of editorialization throughout this whole process. If you're gonna do this, and I would direct this to Mike at RTF, if you're gonna do this, what we do, the commentary thing, this new world of online social media, YouTube, basically television, then yeah, it's perfectly fair to want to keep, your kids' private info, address, even your email address hidden. I believe you published the email address of Christine Niles. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, sorry. I think I saw that on Twitter, though, through all the drama. But, face, first name, last name, that's bound to come out. That's just, you can't really do two of the three. It's just bound to come out. So I don't even know necessarily what all the ramifications of it's coming out are, but I can tell you it's not as bad as you're fearing. If you want to be a social commentary guy, and it seems that you've made that of yourself, then it was bound to come out once your first name and face were out there. But not through me. I wouldn't have been the one to release it. Okay, and Mike from RTF, you are welcome to come on this show if you'd like to make some sort of response to me or to Mike, though I don't say much throughout the interview. All I'm saying is no extortion or blackmail is involved here, and I don't think, even if I am inclined to agree with Voris about the prudence of your fund campaign or whatever, I don't think you're doing anything illegal either. Voris might disagree with me, but I'm pretty sure that there's just no illegality involved here until one party or the other starts defaming the other. And I would just caution, as a final word, that arguing that the other party has done something illegal to you when they have not begins, ironically, the illegality that becomes defamatory. So that's the breaks, and that's the show you're about to watch. And everyone out there, first things first, most importantly, get out to the Enough is Enough conference tomorrow. I'll see you guys on the other side. Deus Volt, God bless you. Greetings, parish orphans and retrogrades. Timothy Gordon coming to you today with a special show about tomorrow's Baltimore rally against the USCCB, if that's fair to say. It is the Enough is Enough conference, and I've got with me a special guest, Mr. Michael Voris, who spearheaded the whole effort. Mike, thanks for taking out 12 minutes of your busy schedule.
Thank you very much, Tim. 12 minutes seems like it's a precious amount of time right now. We've been obviously getting ready for this for months and months, and now we're just sort of crashing to the last few hours, and, is what it is. But, people's prayers and efforts and all of us sort of working double time, it'll come off fine.
So much effort has gone into just making sure that this first minute ticks off the clock tomorrow, because you had to fight this legal battle 2 different times. You took it through the courts, and it launches at 10 a.m. downtown Baltimore tomorrow. Tell us.
Doors open at 10 a.m. The gates open at 10 a.m. Our live stream on churchmilitant.com begins at 10:30, and then we have the blessing, the blessing from one of our priests at 11 o'clock straight up, and then we immediately jump into the program.
And it's you, Milo, Bannon, Malkin, James Grind, Patrick Coffin, many, many others.
Father Altman, we're still expecting Steve Bannon. I don't know, so many speakers in and out. Terry and Jesse from Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Yeah, but we've got a I would say, as far as the resistance within the church to help restore the faith and end all of this filth and corruption and everything, I can't imagine a more all-star lineup than what's up there on that stage tomorrow.
Amazing. Yeah, we're urging all the parish orphans and retrogrades out there, if you're within a 2 or 3 hour drive of Baltimore, to go let the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops know exactly not what they've done wrong or how they failed us, because they already know that, but to let them know that parish orphans and retrogrades, then drive out 2 or 3 hours, join the resistance against the USCCB. And the timing is perfect, Mike. I made a video last week in concomitance with your own Church Militant resistance movement and Joe there, saying, look, don't give to the campaign, the 3rd, the November call for cash that these bishops make. Was this timing just coincidental or provident?
Well, yeah, probably a little bit of both. But I mean, the bishops always have they have 2 meetings every year, semi-annual meetings. This is their annual one that always happens in Baltimore, since it's the first diocese in the country. They always have it right about this time, the middle week of November, which also happens to, in the United States, corresponds to very close to Thanksgiving. So they always take up that Catholic Campaign for Human Development collection the weekend after their meeting, which is usually the weekend either before or of Thanksgiving. So it all just kind of mushes together all the same time. We just happen to have jumped on the bandwagon of their timing here. And it's interesting running into bishops all over the hotel here, in the dining room and everything else. And just the numbers of conversations, you can't help it over here. I mean, they're sitting, we're sitting at this table, they're sitting right there. And I got to tell you, it's disturbing that all you seem to hear is just a conversation like you happen to be eavesdropping on I don't know, like, the board of directors of IBM or General Motors or something. You don't hear any talk of the holy or the sacred. And okay, maybe they are having that talk somewhere else, but they're sitting around talking with each other at the bar. And I don't mean to presume or paint the picture that they're all like stumbling drunk at the bar. I don't mean that. There's a big bar in the restaurant, and some of them are just sitting up there and talking. They're all stone sober. I'm not implying anything other than they're just physically there. But you're walking around and milling about, and you can't help but hear the conversations, at least part of them. And none of this is about anything of the sacred. And it's really very bothersome. It's really very bothersome. And I have to say this, I just saw, walking up here not 5 minutes ago on the way to this interview with you, Tim, that there's a stretch of the lobby where they're upstairs and they come down the escalator and then they have to walk across the lobby to get to another area they're going. For the first time ever, they actually rolled out the security staff here with armed cops.
Wow.
Actually rolled out black barricades that are about 7-8 feet tall on wheels. And they created a tunnel, and they came off the escalator and walked through the tunnel to another area. And everybody was standing there in the lobby on both sides going, what's going on? This is weird. What is this? And so, I mean, from the, Trump is bad for building a wall crowd, they created their own little portable wall on both sides, like a dual wall, creating a tunnel to walk through it. So anyway, it's kind of good for scene. But anyway, that's the atmosphere here right now. You go up and talk to them. Got a couple of them in the elevators and just said, "Hi, Your Excellency." I said to one guy yesterday at the one of the bishops yesterday at the airport who saw us all. We've all got our Church Militant jackets on. There's about 40 of us here to produce everything that we're doing, the rally and our coverage and evening news and everything else is coming from here live. And so we're all sitting here in our Church Militant jackets. And this one bishop was standing there. He saw us all coming out of the airport, and he was leaning up against a pillar waiting for a ride. He kind of looked at us all and then sort of turned around and walked the other way. And then his ride came and landed right smack in front of us. So he had to come past us again to come back. And I said, "Hey, Bishop, how you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm doing fine, doing fine." And you guys, what's going on? I said, "Oh, we're here for the rally tomorrow to, talk about, the one of the things, major things to end homosexuality in the clergy and the hierarchy." And he goes, "Ha, well, good luck with that." That was his answer.
Do you say that in between drinks of an appletini, or what?
What's that?
You said that in between drinks of an appletini, or no? You said they're drinking at the bar.
He just, we looked him up. As far as we can tell, he doesn't seem to have any, sex abuse cover up or any of that kind of stuff or something. So we thought, oh, this is a guy just being, down, legit honest. Good luck with that. He's an older guy. I can't imagine he's going to be, around as a bishop much more than a year or two. But I do think you got to, faithful Catholics got to understand that there is a certain element within the bishops' conference here that understand everything that we say is true. They completely get it. They live with it when they come to this conference all the time and everything. And they're just kind of like, what the hell can I do about it? And they just sort of throw up their arms and say, well, I try to do my job in my diocese, and what all these other guys want us to do, I guess that's up to them. But there's just kind of a resignation on the part of even some of the good guys. I mean, I was shocked. There's not much a bishop can say these days. It takes my breath away, but him with going, yeah, good luck with that. Took my breath away.
That's kind of encouraging in a weird way, I guess. What about?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, well, we're over the target, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and at least he's not. That didn't make him visibly angry. How about goodly Bishop Strickland? Doesn't he have something to do with the event tomorrow, or did I get that wrong?
No, we don't officially. We don't have any bishop having to do anything official with the rally.
Okay.
However, we've walked up to a few of them and invited them over. Your rally starts at 11. We're going to be saying rosary starting a rosary within the first 5 or 10 minutes. They can come over, walk over, and they can look right out the windows and see the rally. It's happening 50 feet away from them. So, we've invited a number of them over. I actually saw this one, I will say, saw Cardinal O'Malley in downstairs last evening when we were all at the food buffet. And I said, "Oh, hello, Your Eminence. How are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm fine. How are you?" I said, "Good." He said, "I'd like to invite you over to the rally that we have tomorrow, Church Militant's rally, and come over and pray with us and everything, so we can end homosexuality within the clergy and the hierarchy." And he had his plate of food with him, and he just gives one of those like bishop things of like, he goes just like this. He's like, okay. Okay. And I said, "Well, surely, Your Eminence, we can agree that, this is a good thing to all pray for, right? Clergy and lay people, to end the homosexuality within the clergy and the hierarchy, right? I mean, you'd agree with that, right?" And he was like, yeah. And he goes down the food buffet line. It's interesting that, it's becoming something of a pattern that the guys who know about all of this and are part of it in one way or the other, particularly the senior leadership, will always look at you like you got 4 heads and they're kind of dazed and they don't really understand sort of kind of what you're talking about. And yet these are the cardinals. Really, you got to be a cardinal by walking around going like sort of Catholic zombie. But the
answer is
lesser
yes.
known bishops, actually, when you're talking with them in the elevators and there's no one around, it's amazing how frank they are with you. So the small potatoes bishops, all bishops are equal, except they're not. The small potatoes bishops get all this. They understand it. They have no problem just saying privately, "Yep, you guys are spot on." But and they have normal conversations like you and I are having. But the other guys are always like, that constant bishop ambiguity, like, and it's you just want to smack them across the face and say, "Please wake up. I know, I know, I know. So, let's just be men here and just talk about this." But they won't let the conversation happen.
Any elevator run-ins with the goodly Bishop Barron this time?
No, not yet. I'm hoping we do. A couple of the crew here were on the elevator with Supich. The doors open and he was there, and they're like, "Oh," and I don't want to say in public what the response was after he got off the elevator.
I can imagine. I've got a moral imagination for that kind of thing, Mike.
Yeah, well, yeah, your imagination will carry you quite far and probably arrive there where what the conversation was.
Where it needs to be. We'll Parish Orphans and Retrogrades. Go out there tomorrow. Stuff begins that will interest you at about 10 a.m. Downtown. It is the Enough is Enough conference. There's a virtual who's who of Catholic influencers, and it sounds like it's going to be a great Protestant, lowercase p, kind of time. Mike, can I ask you one final question? You don't hang out much on Twitter. You got a sizable account. I got a sizable account on Twitter. I don't hang out much there. It's the abomination of desolation. But I did see this morning, and there is, as always, so much saber rattling coming from trad Twitter. What is going on with RTF and Church Militant? I know a little bit about it, but it sounds like there's a lot out there that that needs some explanation from your guys' point of view, because I'm hearing weirdly facts that
yeah, I mean, first of all, Mike Parrott, who up to this point has never said his last name. Problem. Runs RTF, Restoring the Faith.com or whatever it is, and is out there. I can tell you he has put out a string of lies in some video that he posted. Here's the bottom line. When Father Jackson of the FSSP got arrested and then charged with child porn and not just child porn, but really extensive child porn. I mean, horrible stuff, bestiality, infant sex, all of this. Of course, nobody wants that to be the case. We don't want it to be the case that it's true. Nobody wants us to be, nobody does. But Mike Parrott from RTF, who has some questionable financial profiteering type things, apparently, in his background, all of a sudden starts this fundraiser for Father Jackson, which got to be such a hot topic that over the weekend, I think it was, or maybe Friday, the FSSP actually had to put out a disclaimer and say, we have nothing to do with that fundraiser. We haven't encouraged it. We have nothing to do with it, completely hands off. The problem is that Michael Parrott, again, without saying his last name, collected in his name about $140,000 or $150,000 from Catholics who are, don't want the Father Jackson information to be true and are, venting, I think, appropriately as far as the nightmare of this situation, if it is true. They don't want it to be true. So Michael Parrott seems to be capitalizing on that, collected $150,000 and then said in his social media post that he's going to take half of that and give it to Father Jackson's attorney, and the other half he's going to hire his own private eye who's going to take that money and do his own private forensic analysis of the evidence. That's what he posted. And so we put out a tweet in response to that and said, how are you getting what do you mean? Why are you collecting money from people saying that you're going to be able to do something that is really next to impossible to do? You think the FBI is going to turn over the evidence to your private investigator? And his response to that was to produce a tweet full of lies that, if you're going to investigate my money, well, why don't we investigate the little chain of money you've got going from Father Altman to a big donor in Ohio to a private LLC out in Arizona to you? So we're like, what are you talking about? So we called Father Altman, we called the donor, we called the LLC in Arizona and said, you guys have any idea what he's talking about here? Because we don't. We haven't gotten any money from any of you, nor are we expecting it. And so because of that, I called up Mike Parrott Wednesday night, and I talked to him for 2.5 hours on the phone. And the dude is like rocking back and forth between, threatened, that all of this is going to get exposed, to making insane arguments. Here's what his evidence is that he's going to have his private investigator do a forensic audit on. He apparently told me on the phone, he apparently knows somebody who who knows the parish that Father Jackson was in Denver, who's going to hand over to Michael Parrott one of Father Jackson's former computers, and he's going to take that and hand it over to his private eye and pay him $70,000 to do a scrub of the hard drive and everything. And his excuse for that is, well, because if there's nothing on that computer, well, that means this is probably a setup and they planted it on his new computer. And I said to him, Mike Parrott, I said, are you crazy? First of all, you can't call that evidence. It's not evidence. The evidence is in the hands of the FBI. That's not evidence. Second of all, if you grab that and you hand it over to your PI and you go through all your scrubbing and everything and all that, how is that evidence? You've just broken the chain of custody. It would never be allowed in court. And he's like, oh, do you think? I'm like, well, you think? I know. Why would they? You've raised money for his defense. Why on earth would authorities, law enforcement authorities, and the prosecutor's office take stuff that you've gone over and then enter it into evidence or allow it to be entered into evidence on the part of the defense? Why would you do that? And why would they do that? And he said, oh, I guess I never thought of it that way. I said, Mike, you need to get out of the middle of this right now. Here's what you need to do. And during the course of the 2.5 hours, he told me that he had agreed with the attorney, his name is John, the attorney's name for Father Jackson is John, that he would give him $60,000. And the attorney, Mike Parrott, says that will be enough to cover all of Father's legal expenses. I said, okay, fair enough. And he said, Father agreed to that. Now, that's Father telling the attorney, telling Michael Parrott, telling me that Father had agreed to that. All I'm doing is just repeating the content of the conversation I had with Michael Parrott. And Michael Parrott says, I said, well, here's what you need to do. Take that $60,000, call up the attorney, say, do you have an attorney in town, another attorney in town, who I can deposit that money into his escrow account and then let him work out the payment schedule for you on behalf of Father, and I'm out of here. I'm going to take all the rest of the money that I've collected, $70,000 or $80,000, and I'm going to refund it to all the Catholics who did it, because actually I have no business doing this. I said to him, Mike, sure sounds like you're being shady. You're collecting money, presenting it as though you're going to be able to do something with the evidence. The evidence is in the hands of the FBI. You're doing a bait and switch here, Mike. And it's unethical and it's immoral, and you're profiteering off people's passion about this case. You need to get out of the case. Now, if you're in contact with his attorney like you say you are, then if you agree to all of this, and here's the point, he did. He told me he would get back with me on Friday and say, yep, I've done everything. All the wheels are in motion. I've started the refunds going back to people. Well, I called him or texted him Friday around, I don't know what time it was, sometime in the late afternoon, evening, maybe later at night, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, somewhere around there. And texted him and said, well, I haven't heard back from you, so I presume that you're not going to do this like you said you were going to. And then he's like, oh, but he just starts going, and then he releases this ridiculous video. If he thinks trying to protect people from being profiteered from is somehow extortion, the guy's a wingbat. So yeah, I mean, that's what's going on here. He won't give back the money that he's collected under false pretenses. Hear this loud and clear, Catholic trad world. Michael Parrott is baiting and switching you. He has no access at all to the FBI's evidence. Nothing. He has no access to it. The FBI and state officials do not take their evidence that's already entered into the court proceedings and then take it out of the court proceedings and hand it over to a private investigator so he can do his due diligence on it. He's pretending, Michael Parrott is pretending that some laptop that he still doesn't even have, that some laptop is evidence. It's not evidence. It's not evidence. If Father Jackson, which I hope he is not, if Father Jackson is guilty, tons of child porn guys, whoever, these illegal, gross, horrible stuff, they don't have one computer. They've got multiple computers. They have a dirty computer where they do all of this stuff on. And they, so even if you find a computer back at the parish in Denver, that doesn't mean he doesn't have a dirty computer with him. Heck, I've got 4 computers. So it's insane to think that, Michael Parrott has some secret access to all the evidence. He has no secret access. And I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, I don't know, where's the bill $70,000 come from? $70,000 to examine a hard drive? Really? Well, I'm in the wrong line of work.
I just one quick point of clarification. I'm not correcting anything you've said, but after I watched the RTF video last night, I was thinking to myself, what RTF was attempting to do was not illegal. Church Militant says it's imprudent or maybe more, but not illegal. And
no,
nothing you guys.
First of all, I haven't seen his video. I mean, I'm busy here in Baltimore. I'm just
no, I get it. And nothing, but nothing that Church Militant has done in response to that video, trying to persuade him not to do this fundraiser, or at least half this fundraiser. That does not amount to extortion. So it is not illegal. There's actually no illegality on either the part of RTF or Church Militant, just so everyone out there understands. No one.
Actually, Tim, I'd like to make a little point of clarification on that. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, and I'm certainly not in law enforcement, but if you're on the internet and you're telling people, hey, I'm going to take this money, so, give it to me for this reason, and then people give you tens of thousands of dollars for this reason, and you've done something of a bait and switch that you're going to be examining the evidence, where every single rational person who hears that term will think of the evidence as what the FBI and the state police have. Not some stray computer back in Denver or something that we don't even really know anything about, and he doesn't have yet. I don't know that that's not illegal. I don't know if it is or it isn't. I mean, I suppose you can get on the internet and lie and say, give me money for something. And if people give you money for it, maybe it's a crime, maybe it's not. I have no idea. But it's certainly unethical. Or, as I told him on the phone when I was talking with him for those 2.5 hours, I said, Mike, look, this is either unethical and shady, or you're completely ignorant. You really think that a computer that's sitting there for months, that somehow you're going to get your hands on, you're going to examine, is somehow going to be allowed to be entered into evidence before the police ever got a hold of it? Really? And he's like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Do you think that's really what would happen? And I'm like, am I talking to a 12-year-old here who doesn't know the way the world works? It was a very strange conversation. And it went on for, like I said, for 2.5 hours. And there's some other aspects of this that I can't get into because of who Michael Parrott is associated with on a professional level. And I don't want those people to become tarred by all of this because of him. So, and I said that to him. As a matter of fact, it was the very last thing I said to him as we wrapped up the phone call. And I said, if you let this happen, if you go back on your word and don't refund all that money, and the stuff about Father Jackson comes out in court, that stuff is so salacious, whether they're true or not. Those charges are so salacious. Bestiality and infant sex with adults. I don't even know what that looks like. It's like revolting to even think about. And if that comes up and all of a sudden that tickles the secular media because it's so outrageous, and then one intrepid reporter, after about 5 minutes of searching, finds out you've raised all this money to defend what will be labeled a perverted priest or a perv priest, whether he's guilty or not at the time that the story would come out. Everybody around you is going to get tarred with that, like they're somehow involved in it. And you need to, for the good of them, for the ethics involved here, you need to back out of this now for their sake. If you promise to pay the lawyer, we'll pay the lawyer and get out of it. Or if you're going to go ahead and pursue it, like apparently he's going to, then you need to call these people and say, hey guys, just so you know, because it's not fair. It's not fair for somebody to engage in at least unethical behavior that has a really big explosive PR aspect about it, to then tar other people who are just kind of caught up in your web of machinations and unethical behavior and weird lies and things of saying stuff. So I don't want to reveal who those people are. Mike Parrott knows who they are. But, look, I would just tell your audience, here's a guy who kept his last name hidden forever until this story broke, and we're the ones who released his name. He's collected money under a really weird bait and switch plan to try to get people to somehow think he's got like the inside track on this. And he's profiteering off their good feelings and disbelief and the not wanting the case to be true against Father Jackson. That's revolting. That's revolting. I mean, you're profiteering off someone else's agony and other people's, scandal and everything else. Mike Parrott has no access to the evidence. He made that whole thing up. He's talking about some random computer sitting out in Denver from 3 or 4 months ago that he doesn't even have right now. So it's.
I fundamentally didn't understand in the RTF video what was being alleged. There's an old expression in the law: absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. So if they have a gun in court that I allegedly used to commit some crime, and they match up a bullet to it that also was used, I can't take in my non-matching caliber gun and say, look, the bullet doesn't match this gun. It's like, well, that has nothing to do with the guilty gun, the smoking gun.
Right.
So I didn't understand that, but I literally was just wondering late last night and this morning about all the drama, and you've cleared up a lot of it. For one final question, then I'll let you get out of here, Mike. You released his name this morning on the Vortex, correct?
Say it again.
Did you first used his name on the Vortex this morning?
No, I haven't brought any of this up in a Vortex. Our Vortexes are all Baltimore centered right now. I believe on one of the Twitter posts we released his name.
Okay.
So, look, he's besmirching what we do here. He's called Christine Niles, who is an exceptional employee, is
great lady,
thorough as can be on all of her investigations. He's called her a purported journalist, an unlicensed attorney. She's not unlicensed. She just isn't practicing. She graduated, from Notre Dame Law School. She goes over her scripts and everything very, very well, all of her investigations, the whole bit. He's throwing all kinds of shade on Church Militant, and then accusing us of extortion. I mean, I'm not sure what we're getting out of it. All we want is for the people who've been essentially emotionally manipulated to give him money to get their money back.
Right.
Or at least
that's not extortion. Parish orphans and retrogrades, that is not extortion.
No,
so I heard that part.
And I'm not sure what we're blackmailing either. I told him, look, you've agreed to this. You've agreed to give all that money back. If you don't give that money back, we're aware of a story. And I'm telling you, I'm a reporter and I'm speaking to you as a reporter. I told him that on the phone. So give the money back. And that's the only thing we're really concerned about. The people who you essentially ripped off under false pretenses, get their money back. Now, if they want to tell you, oh, well, go ahead and keep it. I hate Voris, or I think Father's innocent and whatever. Well, that's fine. But they need to know that he took the money pretending that the evidence he had was actually the evidence that the FBI has, not some computer sitting out in the middle of nowhere in Denver that people haven't looked at or reviewed or anything for months. That doesn't prove anything. But that's all we want. Just, this isn't fair. I didn't even have to call him. I mean, this is the other thing he hasn't said. I didn't have to call him in advance and say, hey, I don't want to do this story just because, whatever. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on. Just give the people their money back. I said, I don't know if your motives are untoward or you're just kind of like crazy about how the way the world works. So I'll just presume charitably that you don't understand how the world works and you shouldn't have collected the money calling what you're going to look for evidence. And he was like, oh, okay. Oh, do you really think that's how people will see it? Oh, well, yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah. And he said to me at the end, he said, yep, every single point you've said is right. That's as close to as a quote as I can say. I said, okay, good. Well, then Friday, call me and tell me all the money's going back and we all go back to our lives. So texted him Friday night, again, just repeating what happened. Texted him Friday night, said, I haven't heard from you. And he's like, oh, we didn't say Friday. Maybe I misremembered. I said, yes, you misremembered. Give the people the money back, or we're going to we're going to do a story on it all and release it all on Monday, which is why he came out with this video now, to try to get ahead of the story and craft his own narrative. The other thing he also told me, interestingly enough, is that Father Jackson, because he's in such great contact with Father's attorney, John, he said that he told me on Wednesday on that phone call that John was going to enter a plea of not guilty today at the pretrial here at the arraignment. Father didn't enter a plea of not guilty today. He entered a plea of no plea. So I don't know what kind of information you're getting out there, Michael Parrott, but if the attorney told you he's going to enter a plea of not guilty and then 5 days later turns around and enters no plea as the plea, well, obviously you got bad information. So just exactly how close to this case are you?
Yeah, nolo contendere, not guilty. All right, well, thanks. So that was information
little involved,
dumping.
but look, tearing lies apart generally takes a little while to happen, especially if somebody's out there piling lies on top of lies. But here's a very easy litmus test here. We have zero financial gain on any of this. He has $150,000 of money he's collected from people because of all of the feelings about Father Jackson. We said, represent it correctly or give it back. That's it. Now he's out here, we're blackmailing and
right.
blackmailing anything. Give the money back to the people and let them know the real reality behind what you collected it for. That's all we care about.
Fair enough. I'm glad to have heard you say that. And I'm happy to hear, their side of the story too. But from the very outset, I'll say this, just watching the story unfold when I was on a RV trip to Franciscan with my family to give a talk, I think when the Father Jackson story erupted, there was just, he and his friends were all over Christine Niles just for covering the story. Christine, who's also a friend and a good employee to you and a good person, being slandered just for covering a typical very public burgeoning court case that's going to be emerging in the next month. That's typical, like what's happening with Rittenhouse. It is not holding a court of public opinion to report facts that have been through the evidentiary process that goes into the swearing out of an affidavit, which is a more rigorous evidentiary process than people that just watch movies understand. It is not, whatever. Preeminently.
Yeah, that's it. All the actual, leaving all the Twitter discussions aside, the reports that we have done on this, which I think now are 2, have just been, here's what happened, here's what the charges are, this is it. And then that's it, just the facts, ma'am. And then immediately the Mike Parrots of the world start lambasting us, saying, well, why won't you do the evidence, or why won't you do a story on the likelihood that this was planted by demons? I'm not kidding you. That's one of the tweets we got. Why don't you do a story on and dig down to the bottom of this and find out if Pope Francis called Joe Biden and told Joe Biden to initiate the FBI to plant this stuff on Father's hard drives? I mean, our duty as reporters is to simply report what's happened. Now, as we've said on social media, and I'm saying again now, if somebody out there, anybody out there has evidence that this was planted on Father's hard drive, then call us up. We are happy to pursue it, but it's got to be something that is evident, not just something that, I think or I feel. It's insane. It's
something
insane.
That is imagined, that no less.
Yeah.
I mean, did everyone out there hear Michael Voris? For the sake of posterity, he said, if anyone has a corpuscle of evidence that any evidence itself was planted against Father Jackson, then please call Church Militant, because they would love to cover it. As a matter of fact, you guys are good friends, as I am. Yeah, we're all FSSP friends.
Case.
Yeah.
But, I'm not just going to run down leads because people are emotional about something. Look, we had the Father Perone case at Assumption Grotto in Detroit, 2-3 years ago. Something for which Father Perone is still being punished by Archbishop Vigneron. And the very first, I get the emotional response. I mean, Father Perone was my pastor, my personal pastor. I'd known him for years. And when the Archdiocese of Detroit, releases this statement in July of 2019, 2018 or 19, I forget now, 2019, when they released this statement that says, he's guilty of, raping, some teenage boy 40 years ago. I get the blood just drains out of you when you hear that. And so I get the emotional response on the part of everybody who knows Father Jackson and, and swears up and down he's a good priest and all that and everything else. Another thing that Mike Parrott lied about in that video, there are multiple lies in that video, but he said that we had some sort of personal association with Father Jackson, Christine Niles and me. Unless it's been in some brief passing, like just meeting somebody at a talk kind of thing, I know nothing about Father Jackson. I've never, to the best of my knowledge, I've never met him. If I have, it's been in a very sort of passing situation, just, shaking hands or being introduced or something like that after a talk. So I'll allow that may have happened. But even that, I have no recollection of whatsoever. I don't remember that ever happening. And I've been out to Denver a few times and given talks, but it's not like, as far as I know, I've sat down at a table with them and had dinner and carried on and went out for beers and got some sort of, relationship of some sort with him, some sort of social relationship. I don't. And as far as I know, Christine's never even laid eyes on him, much less, engaged and got some sort of thing she's got going on. But, Mike Parrott is lying. He's a liar. He keeps putting out things that are flat out falsehoods. And that's it. If anybody got evidence out there that Father is the victim of some setup, call us. I would love for that to be the case. I would love for that to be the case, and we'll chase it down. But we're not chasing down emotional, hysteria just because a priest that everybody likes. People are willing to believe anything. That aliens somehow invaded him, or Joe Biden and the Pope and Pope Francis, or some continuing war against tradition, are trying to go after him. Sure, you have an email that says that from Pope Francis that you somehow got your hands on, shoot it over to us. But Father Jackson has never declared, and I had this conversation with Parrott on the phone too. I said, why has Father Francis not issued a statement declaring his own innocence? Not handed it over to his attorney to say, hey, we're going to enter a plea of not guilty. That's a legal proceeding. And everybody says they're not guilty. Theodore McCarrick said he's not guilty. Charles Manson said he's not guilty. Everybody says they're not guilty. You have to, because if you say guilty, well, then, you lose any chance to get a reduced sentence, really. That's just a legal thing. But why wouldn't you, just as a human being, somebody accuses you of having filth on your computer, like despicable filth, bestiality, infant sex, and you get accused of that, and 3-4 weeks go by and you don't issue any statement saying, I am innocent of these charges. Why is that? I don't know why, but, all I can say is I can point to the fact and say he has still not denied the charges and insisted on his innocence. That is a fact. Make of the fact what you want, but that's a fact. And we're not going to not report the fact, because that is a standout fact. Why wouldn't you declare your innocence if you were innocent? And, once again, here we have he kicked one plea opportunity down the road. Today, he did it again. Now they wanted to reschedule, I believe it's for December 1st or November 30th or something. Well, these are all legal machinations you go through on your way to trying to work out some kind of deal, or, get some evidence presented in court, barred from being presented. There's all kinds of things going on here. This is a priest that, hundreds of people are stunned by this, maybe thousands of people are stunned by these charges. And you're allowing somebody, at least the guy says you are, allowing a guy to collect $150,000 for you, not to a GoFundMe, not to something else, but to his own account. That's weird. He has control of the money. Well, sorry, it looks to me like it's profiteering off somebody else's horrible thing, a horrible event that other people are greatly upset by and don't want to be true. So they're willing to hand money over for it. I get the emotional part of the supporters. What I don't get is the lies from Mike Parrott.
Yeah, I got it. Well, so for 100% crystal clarity, there's no evidence that he was going to pocket any of that. It was that half was going to go to the legal defense fund. The other half was going to go to essentially a futile cause or something, right?
There's no evidence one way or the other. I mean, you agreed to give the people the money back when you were on the phone with me on Wednesday night. We started at a little after 10. We wrapped up at 12:30. I'm happy to show the screen text with a shot of my phone to prove I was on the phone with him. We're on the phone for 2.5 hours. You got off the phone and say you're going to give the people the money back. And you'd call me on Friday and say everything was going on. All day Thursday went by. All day Friday went by. I texted you and all of a sudden he goes nuclear. So
gotcha.
At this point, I have no idea one way or the other. Is there no evidence? There's no evidence that he's not going to keep the money. And there's no evidence that he's actually going to spend the money. So that's an open question. I think Mike Parrott has to answer that question. Where's the money, Mike?
Fair enough. In closing, Mike, I would just say this. After July 16th's motu proprio, the really, really odd thing is that a lot of the people that are currently defending Mike online, particularly on Twitter, were jumping all over FSSP's case, calling them bootlickers and all kinds of things because of their complicity with Rome. Your apostolate there, Church Militant, your large apostolate, my small apostolate here, Rules for Retrogrades. We did a video defending FSSP against charges of being bootlickers and things like that after the motu proprio.
Right.
And I can distinctly recall some comments coming my way, and I think even your way on Twitter, if I remember correctly, saying, "Oh, you guys are just in bed with FSSP and you hate SSPX and all this." It's like, okay, so if anything, the fact that you're willing to report on a congregation, one of the Ecclesia Dei congregations, FSSP, that you are, if I'm guessing, most chummy with. I'm definitely most chummy with the most amount of FSSP priests. That proves your objectivity, not your lack thereof. So I just wanted to get that out there. I haven't heard many people taking that angle on it, and I think it deserves to be said.
Yeah, we're big supporters of FSSP. I mean, I've unofficially visited the Our Lady of Guadalupe Seminary there in Denton. I know a good number of FSSP priests, a big supporter of theirs. They stand in stark and authentic contrast to the schism of SSPX. Supported them, up one side and down the other. So yeah, I mean, if this is like you hate tradition and blah, 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 people don't think reasonably when their emotions take control. And if there are people who understand that people are out of emotional control and there's an opportunity there to profiteer from that, well, that's a bad thing.
Gotcha. Well, thanks a lot, Mike. This was an interview on the Enough is Enough conference tomorrow that we ended up talking about the other drama far more by portion. But good luck tomorrow, and thanks for clearing the air, or the questions anyway, on this.
And if I just ask all of your listeners to please keep the rally in prayer tomorrow, just that it's peaceful. We're going to be peaceful. Certainly the people at the rally. Just if anybody else happens to show up around the perimeter and starts, with you guys are fascists and blah, 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 and all that and everything, it's just, just peaceful rally aimed at the bishops. This has nothing, we're past the preliminary injunction part of the lawsuit. We're not looking for any violence with anybody. This is a bunch of faithful Catholics, 1,500, 2,000, whatever it's going to be, wanting to get the attention of the bishops to get rid of the homosexuality within your ranks and, stop giving sacrilegious Holy Communion to these child-killing politicians. That's what we're here for.
Amen. God bless, Mike. I wish I could be there with you tomorrow, but our prayers will be, and I know it's going to be a great event. People, get out there. Parish orphans, retrogrades, supporters of anyone who opposes the darkling bishops and their darkling agenda, rampant homosexualism within the upper clergy, the upper ranks of the clergy. get out there and support Enough is Enough tomorrow. Mike, Voris, thanks a million.
God bless. Thanks very much, Tim.
Yeah. Peace. God
Bye-bye.
bless you. Man. Be safe.